Organised crime groups are travelling up to 4 hours, 5 hours to go and actually target one vehicle. It's estimated that it's a €8.2 billion problem across the UK. People like you and me could be buying stolen goods unknowingly. The funding in the UK is match funding.
Do you think it's enough?
I definitely don't think it's enough.
Good morning. Just to introduce myself, first of all, I am Nick Long. I work for Snap as the European Partnerships Manager. And today in Driving Conversations, I have with me Harry. Would you like to introduce yourself, Harry?
Hi Nick, my name's Harry from FET Logistics, but I'm the TAPA EMEA UK lead. Been in the role now for about 3 months.
Great. Well, it's really good to have you here today. Obviously, in terms of the Driving Conversation, this is our third series of doing it, and really excited today to understand more about your role at TAPA, what that means to the industry, to secure truck parking, and then obviously more about your company as well. So first of all, really like to understand a little bit more for people who don't know about TAPA. What is TAPA? How did it start? What is it all about?
So TAPA is a global association that drives security standards and intelligence, provides the TIS database, the TIS tool, which lists all of secure parking places, crimes, and certified transport security requirements, facility security requirements. It's been around one way or another since 1997. It was originally the Technology Asset Protection Association, set up by IBM and Hewlett-Packard in America. It soon changed in 2000 to the TAPA we know it as today, which is the Transport Asset Protection Association, because of the broader scope of members that wanted to join it.
Sure. Yeah, it's quite a long name, isn't it? So I think calling it TAPA is probably a little bit easier. But no, I mean, it's from what I know, obviously we've been members of TAPA now for quite a few years. Can you just explain to people, perhaps who haven't known before, what are the differences between FSR, TSR, and PSR, which are the main accreditations that you have at TAPA?
TSR is transport security requirements. It's in 3 levels, 1 to 3, 1 being the highest, which sets out the minimum standards that anything valuable or theft attractive should be transported at. Level 3 can be done at self-certification. It's the same with facilities. FSR, it goes levels A to C, C being the lowest level where you can self-certify by doing some of the TAPA training available online to its members. And PSR, once again, is the parking security requirements, which Snap's involved with a lot. That is what levels 1 to 3 as well. Level 3 can be self-certified or done by Snap, and 1 being the highest, which sets out access controls, perimeter fencing, CCTV, all of the standards that would help secure your cargo.
Sure.
If supply chain security is important to you and your customers, it's time you found out more about TAPA. With incidents of freight crimes continuing to grow, our members are minimizing their cargo losses. You can too. Contact TAPA now.
So if you look at the FSR, TSR, and PSR ecosystem, obviously there's a lot there that we know that really benefits. But what do you think in terms of people who don't know much about those 3 standards? What are the real benefits to a company or to a supply chain?
So to companies practicing them standards, it's going to give their customers peace of mind that their cargo is in the best possible place, right from transport all the way through to the parking overnight. There's standards in place that's going to secure it. It's going to put it in the best place.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree, and I think everything we've seen so far, been to a lot of these TAPA conferences, where you have cargo leaving, facility, you've given it the best chance of everything being secured, standards, people, entry, exit, from the trucking perspective, having the right technology, in place to track it. You do have obviously a lot of locks on your vehicles as well, which is part of the standard, I think, isn't it, for TSR?
For TSR, it is, we use maple locks, but there's lots of other locks out there available, obviously. But yeah, we use remote locking on the maple locks, also panic buttons, tracking, security monitoring, route deviation, and PSR is a massive part of that. If we're transporting goods under TSR, the transport security requirements, it requires us to be parking in a secure location. So we're looking in the database, planning the routes. We might be stopping the truck short 2 or 3 hours into it of what he could actually achieve in a day on his drive to park him in a secure location.
Absolutely. And then, coming on to PSR, which obviously is a lot about we want to talk about today, the parking security requirements come in different forms, don't they? You've got your entry level up to, I think it's level 1, isn't there? Could you just explain a little bit more about those standards and how maybe somebody starts thinking about applying or wants to be a part of the PSR accreditation?
So if anyone was thinking of becoming a part of the PSR accreditation, the best starting point is to join TAPA as a PPO, as a parking place operator. There is a cost involved in that, which is €750 for parking place operator, but they get training, free training involved so they can certify as an authorised auditor to PSR. For a non-member, that training's €2,000, so it's a bit of a no-brainer
Good discount.
to sign up,
Sure.
and become a TAPA member. Once they become a member, they can self-certify to level 3, but with more procedures and security in place, they can get up to level 1, which will need to be done by an independent audit body.
Absolutely, and I think that's a really good point there. That self-certification piece is quite important, isn't it? Everybody has busy lives, busy operations, so the way in which they self-certify, how do they go about doing that? Is it online? Is it a form they have to complete? What's the sort of process to do that?
So there is audit templates that TAPA members can use. It's a members only part of the TAPA website. You can download an audit template. Initially, the best place to be a gap test. Download the template, see where you're at, see what you're missing. But once you've completed the complete audit template, you can upload it to TAPA. They'll ask for verification and maybe some extra information to check that it's right, and then issue a certificate.
And you obviously is FET logistics. Obviously, it's a big part of what you look for when you're transporting primarily pharmaceuticals across Europe as well. So is that a big part of looking for locations through the TIS tool that you use for planning?
Definitely, yeah. We use the TIS tool as a risk assessment as well. There's a Power BI model where you can put your start and finish point in there, and it will hotspot all the crime locations. Sometimes we change our route to a different sort of come back through Luxembourg rather than France, because we know there's more parking along that route, which if we get caught in traffic, then there's going to be more options for us to park in.
Sure.
And they're all certified on the TIS database. We've got customers that specify it must be level 1 to 3 parking that we're parking at because of the nature of the goods that we carry.
Do you see any links there to insurance or insurance premiums, maybe in the future in regards to PSR? I know I've had many conversations with the likes of Aviva and others across Europe as well. Do you see any sort of mitigation or risk management that maybe the PSR can maybe benefit as well?
I think that there could be an initiative by the insurance companies that would drive premiums lower, possibly for anyone transporting and parking in these areas. Ultimately, it's going to save the insurers money from paying out on claims, which we're seeing daily, from curtains being slashed, boxes being cut open. It's a daily problem.
Yeah. And then just looking in terms of the network, obviously that's currently there that you've got in terms of the TAPA PSR network. Obviously, there's a significant reach across Europe. Do you think that's enough? Do you think it's a starting point? How many locations would you ideally like to see across the network in Europe?
I think we're still struggling in parking all over. The UK more so than Europe. The EU just released £91 million for 3,400 parking spots across the EU. That was part of TAPA driving industry and associations to get that funding. But I think we're still short in the UK by a long way of certified sites. But the UK faces different issues, I think, to the EU. Planning regulations about parking spots. They're all barriers which are stopping truck parks being opened as well.
Sure, and I think we're seeing the UK market from Snap, in terms of working with new locations, trying to open, from a planning application to getting built and to launch might be 2 years. And actually, you think about the requirement or the lack of secure parking. What do you think, or what do you think the government could do, or local councils could do, maybe to accelerate that?
I think what's happening at the moment with Rachel Taylor and the Freight Crime Bill is going to highlight this a lot more, and maybe put relaxed planning regulations in place for the parking. As operators, we know how hard it is even to get an operating centre where you can park your trucks overnight. But when you've got a truck parking facility where trucks are coming and going regularly, that becomes even more difficult because of local housing, people living, complaints, objections. So it could be that there's help from the government in finding these sites and relaxing the regulations around planning.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's very important, isn't it? Because if you've got a lot of private equity or companies trying to invest the money, but then they have these blockers, obviously there's less of a desire to want to do that. And then you add the standards on top, there's a lot of barriers to entry, isn't there? So like you said, hopefully that positive change within Parliament might then, springboard some new locations, perhaps, UK and Europe. But you're absolutely right. I think the work that I know that we've been doing at SNAP with TAPA, for example, I think at the last TAPA conference we announced around 55 to 60 new partnerships in terms of PPOs into the network, which is great to see, but it's only a starting point, like you said. And then obviously in the UK, so I think just sort of news for today in terms of the driving conversations. We know that Motor MSA are going to be joining as PPOs and working towards the PSR. It's obviously something new, obviously having a motorway service area with those standards. But yeah, we look forward to adding more with TAPA in due course as well. So now we're moving on to talking a little bit about obviously truck parks linked to the TAPA PSR standards. So how secure do you think that truck parks are today, and what risks do drivers face when parking up overnight?
I mean, it's the driver's safety at the end of the day. That the drivers need to be able to get a good night's rest and know that they're going to be safe and secure. If they're parking in an insecure parking location, driving up here yesterday, we see so many trucks parked in lay-bys at the side of the road. They're not secure parking spots. The drivers hearing noises coming, they're going to be waking through the night, not getting a good night's sleep, and that's going to affect their working and safety in the truck the next day as well. The PSR parking standards gives drivers that sense of security, that they can leave the truck. They need decent facilities, showers, toilets, food, access to hot drinks as well, which there's not enough parking spots within the UK and the EU that offer that.
No, I completely agree, and I think there's probably something there along the lines of driver recruitment and retention as well, because there is obviously a significant amount of shortages within HGV drivers across the UK and Europe as well. Do you think that has some sort of influence in terms of people wanting to join the industry for things they might see in mainstream media or similar?
I think so, yeah. I don't think it's seen as a young person's job these days, truck driving. You tend to get drivers moving up from being a van driver into a truck driver, but it's definitely seen as an older person's job these days. So, and the people are a bit long in the tooth who don't mind the poor facilities and the used to it, but it's not appealing to the younger generation.
Of course, yeah. And I guess that cost associated with the training to go from a van driver to HGV Class 1, there's obviously a lot of cost and investment there that's required as well. Is it individually, or do companies also provide funding for that as well to get them to that level?
I think companies are having to provide the funding to do it because there's not enough people wanting to do it on their own. So from my own perspective, we recruit from internally and get the drivers to progress into HGVs.
Yeah, good. And then in terms of actual truck parking itself, do you see there are any metaphorical barriers, to creating safe and secure truck parking spots? Obviously we talked a little bit about regulations, obviously a bit of the costs there as well. Do you think there's anything else that's maybe stopping, an operator of a truck park creating a safer environment, and any other things that we haven't covered already?
I think it could be cost as well is the main driving factor on that, and the fact that they've got to change some procedures. Sometimes that little change could drive it into a more secure location. A little procedure in place from the standards that TAPA's produced, it could change it from a PPO into a PSR certified site. Yeah. It's the little procedures that need to be changed.
Absolutely. And I think you can obviously install all the technology in the world obviously as well, but it's really about making sure that people know what the processes should be and what to follow, because in actual fact, from what we've seen in terms of the audits already with TAPA and the PPO into PSR level 3, if they make small but well adjusted tweaks, in terms of their operations, the rest of it actually just flows as well. And I think that's something that's really, worth talking through about the PSR standard, is that framework you set out is really well constructed for that as well. What do you feel in terms of the actual set out of those standards itself? You've just recently done the training, haven't you, as well? So how did you find the training for PSR?
Yeah, it was very interesting actually. It was a good course to do. Not having any sort of a clue from the parking background, the exam was tough as well at the end of it. But they offer a webinar that helps get you through the exam and how to progress through it. But the standard itself, it was an eye opener on actually what goes into getting the PSR 3-to-1 standards. I didn't realise there was that much in it until I've actually done the exam myself.
Absolutely, and I think that's something that we've already been discussing ourselves together. What we really like to do is obviously for our partners and beyond as well, is to create a bit of a webinar so people can join that. They can learn more about the standards, how they can get more involved with their own truck parking, and actually what those barriers to entry might be in terms of, is it standards, is it processes in place, or is it technology? To understand that and maybe answer some of those questions as well. So I think we'll have that in due course as well. And we spoke a little bit about European funding, but obviously it's good to highlight the UK government funding as well. So the highways obviously released lots of funding recently as well. So what have you seen in terms of that money that's been spent in the UK market, and do you think it's enough?
The funding in the UK is match funding, so whatever the parking place operator spends, it will be matched by the government, which is a good initiative to start with. Not all the money that was been offered out has been taken, so there's still money available for parking place operators if they want to apply for that match funding. I definitely don't think it's enough. I think there's more to be done, but we are hearing about some of the big motorway service areas investing in technology and using that match funding, which can help reduce cargo crime.
Yeah, I think Roadchef as an example recently, I think it was they've done their improvements. We spoke a little bit about like AI and how that's helping battle cargo crime as well. And I think you've got a bit of a story you heard of an incident that may have happened, and what happened there?
Yeah, we heard of a Roadchef site. I was on a NAVSIS golf day in the morning, and we heard that morning that the cameras and the control centre had caught people, but before the actual crime had happened, which is a great success story of the technology going in and it working. So
great. And how was the golf?
Golf was rubbish.
Good. Oh, good. Not good.
My golf was rubbish, I should say. The day was great, but not my golf.
Oh, well. You have to play again, Harry.
Yeah.
And then, obviously the AI piece obviously is really important to the safety drivers in truck parking areas as well. Do you feel from the match funding that maybe that could be looked at as non-match funding? And by that, I mean, we have and work with a lot of independent truck stops that maybe can't afford to do match funding in terms of the investment there. There's obviously cost pressures of national insurance. There's obviously, rates of interest increasing as well. Do you think there's a role there? Maybe the UK government could provide, standard solutions to help improve security of truck stops without match funding?
Definitely. I think grants can be put in place. If a grant was available for, let's say, perimeter fencing or CCTV or infrastructure upgrade, rather than the match funding for these smaller operators, that would help massively with the problem.
Absolutely. So next topic we wanted to chat through with you, Harry, was about the scale of cargo theft, obviously across UK and Europe. But I don't know, hopefully, you've got lots of stats, obviously, for today as well, because it is significant, isn't it? But in terms of the actual scale of the theft problem that we see in Europe, what are we seeing? What are the numbers that we're seeing on a yearly basis?
So it's estimated that it's a 8.2 billion euro problem across the UK. So looking at the stats in the UK this year, there's been between the TIS database has been 2,300 reported crimes just in the UK alone. NAVSIS has got some similar data, slightly less reported crimes at 2,120 odd crimes reported. So it's a massive problem. It's happening daily all across the the UK, and it's organised crime groups that are causing the thefts, the hijackings. They drive miles. There was a piece that I saw NAVS's release where organised crime groups are travelling up to 4 hours, 5 hours to go and actually target one vehicle. So crime tends to be in the UK based more around the Leeds area and the Liverpool area we're seeing, but there's different lines. The M6 tends to be a lot more alcohol being stolen, whereas the M1 tends to be more electronic goods. And that could be because of the distilleries in Scotland, and then it could be because of the big tech companies starting up along the M1 corridor.
And obviously that must make huge, real big decisions for these logistics companies to take. So do you know of any of these fleets that are transiting goods from the distilleries or the electronics sectors? Are any of these already TAPA members, and what sort of extra measures are they having to take in those real hotspots, do you think?
I'm sure some of them are TAPA members. I don't know any of them myself, apart from myself transporting along the M6 and the M1 corridor. But there's a distinct lack of secure parking along there. I think the problem you have as well, they built these big industrial parks. We're seeing the Amazon centres along the side of the motorway. And if you turn up there an hour early or an hour late, you've missed your slot. And if there's some other EU hauliers coming in, they're then stuck there saying, we've got a load, we need to deliver it, what do we do with it? And that's where a lot of insecure parking can come. And it also sort of highlights that there's to criminals and organised crime groups that along the M1 corridor, trucks parked up insecurely could be carrying a high value load.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a really good point. And I think, drivers waiting to go into Amazon logistics centres, all those just-in-time deliveries, they create real bottlenecks and hotspots, don't they, for criminals who literally just watch there and then just wait for that cargo to arrive. And I think it's worth highlighting there as well. I think there's been a shift there with Amazon with that pre-gating system. I know they've done a lot of work with us recently to find locations where they can pre-park somewhere else, even for a few hours in a more secure area, and then get that call then to go in. So hopefully that's making a bit of difference. But the scale we're talking about here obviously is pretty large, isn't it, of the amount of parking or spaces required for that pre-gating?
Definitely. It could be it'd be a good idea to try and get some more depot parking in place, where if you've got an empty space in your yard and you're a TAPA member, you could share that parking spots. Something that it's definitely done across the EU by you guys as well at SNAP. It'll be great to see more of that in the UK, because some of the sites across the UK, all of DHL supply chain sites are FSRA or the highest level. That could potentially be parking spots as well. It might need some more infrastructure and planning around it, but it would be great to see if there's some depot parking sharing.
I think it's a really good idea, and I think like you absolutely mentioned, the depot parking scheme that we coined the phrase probably around 12 years ago, supports just that. I think the ability to pre-find a parking space, before a just-in-time delivery or similar, all of the TAP members can help with this solution, can't they? It's providing spaces when even your drivers aren't there, they're out on the road perhaps. Its ability to support other logistics companies, create more secure parking areas, because let's be honest, if it's your yard, it's probably going to be a high level security or maybe FSR standard, like you mentioned with DHL as well. Is there anything you think that might be stopping TAPA members from doing that, to join maybe a depot parking scheme?
I'm not sure what the solution could be to get them to sign up to that. It could be just procedural. It could be maybe they need to speak to you, Nick, and get some help from you guys.
Yeah, true. Yeah, well, it's a good scheme. I think at the minute we've got over 1 million spaces a year. That's for if you stretch it completely out in terms of all those spaces across the network as well. But yeah, good idea. So in terms of the changing cargo crime itself, maybe you've seen this with TAPA. Have you seen tactics changed over the years in terms of cargo theft or organised crime? What are you seeing in terms of those changes?
Definitely. I think as technology evolves for the transport companies and the facilities with better CCTV locking, tracking technologies, the criminal gangs have changed their tactics as well. They're using jammers to block the tracking systems. Deception theft as well. That tends to be an easier way for them to pick up goods. We saw of a facility in Amsterdam back in 2021 where €3 million worth of phones was a truck drove in with a false collection note, collected the goods and drove out. I believe they got caught, them criminals done that, and they just got a 2-year sentence for deception theft, and they walked away with €3 million worth of phones.
Wow.
So, but the original kind, hijacking, is still going on. There was a case in Heathrow in August this year, which is reported at $9 million worth of mobile phones stolen, and that was a hijacking on the Perimeter Road at Heathrow.
Wow. And again, was that cargo recovered, or has that gone into the ether and been resold?
It's still under investigation at the moment, so I haven't got the full stats of where that's gone. It's still fresh, that one.
Yeah. And I think, especially, not just electronics, but goods of clothes and whatever else. We were obviously at the Retail Risk Conference not so long ago, weren't we? And there's a lot of those platforms out there now which criminals are using, and how that's shifted. And I think the last or the most modern one is Vinted. I think we've been seeing, isn't it, where when clothes are stolen, you or I might go on there and buy a nice new shirt or something like that, but actually it's been stolen. So I think that's another change, isn't it? It's happening in the criminal market.
The route for stolen goods to get back into the market. At that Retail at Risk Conference, we was heard from Opal and Navsys, and we heard that it could be in a legitimate supply chain such as Amazon as well. So innocent people like you and me could be buying stolen goods unknowingly.
Yeah, and then also the manufacturers or similar, or the producers might actually be buying back those stolen goods without even realising as well. Isn't that right? So a supermarket, so that they've had some goods stolen, then inadvertently they bought them back again sort of 3 months later, back into their supply chain, and didn't even realise till once they'd rebought them. So yeah, big changes. Are there any lessons that you've seen from your using TAPA in your own business? So that might be the FSR, TSR, or PSR. You briefly spoke about what you've learned from the PSR, but what the lessons that you're seeing?
Just being a TAPA member and implementing its standards gives you massive benefits. It gives you peace of mind. I can sleep at night knowing I've got a monitoring centre in place, monitoring my cargo, and that it's going to a secure parking place. It just gives you peace of mind, and gives your customers peace of mind as well. It gives you kudos with your customers as well, that you're doing things right. Having the certifications is like a little badge that you're doing things right. So.
No, I completely agree, and I think from what you've explained about your business with FET, it's great to see that those procedures and that technology blends together. But again, for people who may be watching this who aren't a fleet, with TAPA, what would you say in terms of them joining the sort of the benefits as a fleet joining TAPA?
It will give you more access to contracts that you might not win otherwise, because you've got the requirements. We're hoping that insurers might start specifying that it should be carried under TAPA conditions. It's the bare minimum standards that anything theft attractive. If you're suffering losses in your supply chain, TAPA can help minimise that.
Great, that sounds really good. And then I know over the years of how TAPA's grown from the initial conferences maybe out in Germany where it was quite small to now, you started from 50 members. What are you up to now in terms of memberships?
I believe it's around 1,200 memberships, including the parking place operators and law enforcement agencies. In the 25th anniversary conference last year in Düsseldorf, this year in Düsseldorf, it was announced that they're going to have 1,000 actual members crossing that line. So yeah, it's grown massively.
And I think that's a real good benefit there to touch on as well in terms of when you become a TAPA member, both be it fleet or service provider or whatever else it is. Those conferences are amazing, and for obviously one thing or another, but the networking opportunities are pretty big there, aren't they?
Yeah, you're in the room with all the big security representatives of massive companies from globally. Just the outreach is unlimited.
Yeah, great. In terms of time pressures, so with increasing pressures obviously now on fleets to meet time schedules, obviously costs that associate with that as well, where do you see that a fleet operator or manager could balance efficiency with ensuring compliance and security? Because there is a balance there, isn't there?
Definitely. Using the TIS tool for the balance between the two, compliance in terms of parking. You're going to be able to utilise the risk and against the rewards of where you're going to park. Using TIS can help you do a route risk assessment to find the best parking location along a route, avoiding the crime hotspots. So, yeah.
Using that, as a balance. I mean, the TIS tool is incredible, to see the data that's in there, and data is a really big point, and it kind of actually flows nicely into our next question. For you, what do you think is really important factor around data sharing and sort of theft of cargo and crime? What's most important do you see for you, maybe at FET and TAPA?
The data that we get, I think, has to be valid data that is coming in at the right time as well. So it'd be great to get the data as it's happening, as a live view, rather than seeing it a month old. So you're seeing what's happening at the actual time. It'd be great to see we heard at the Retail at Risk about people wanting to have a big data share. TAPA as well would love to share data. It needs to be mutually beneficial for everybody in the parties, but a big pool of data all into one location, be the TIS tool for the TAPA members, and NAVSIS utilising that data to help fight against cargo crime. That would be a big step forward.
Sure, and then that's a really big piece, isn't it, about people actually reporting the data? Because I think there's always been that stigma, isn't there, around I can't acknowledge that, can't say that, but that won't help, will it? Other people know for the future around it. How does somebody go about submitting an incident on the TIS tool, and how long does it take for that to be sense checked and then uploaded?
It can be easier, to be honest, for the TIS tool. There's an online section in the TAPA website where you can report it, or you can just drop an email to tis@tapaemea.org. It can all be anonymous. You don't have to give them a figure, don't have to give them the product type, just a location and a time. And once that's verified by the TIS team, they'll upload it onto the TIS database straight away.
Great, perfect. So next up, talking about the future of TAPA, future of standards. So how is TAPA working to increase the number of secure truck parking locations for drivers?
So we spoke earlier about the £91 million being released by the EU to create 3,400 more parking spots. TAPA was heavily involved in that. I think TAPA at the moment is working heavily with you guys at Snap, and you're doing a great job in certifying more sites daily for TAPA. I think that's the way forwards. Working with you to basically, I think is the way forward.
Great. I think it's very much a mutual partnership, and from our perspective, our customers do ask for it. Our fleet, so including yourself. So we spoke earlier about you doing that journey planner out towards Europe with your own vehicles, and actually it's something that's been asked on a daily basis as well. So it makes logical sense to try and give customers exactly what they want, but actually increasing standards as well, and push away that crime.
Yeah, we provide the standards, and you guys got the outreach to the operators to put the PSR parking locations within your database as well.
Absolutely, and I think we'd love to see more of that, and especially the UK team at the minute work on that project, with TAPA to include more. So look forward to feeding that back very, very soon. Are there any partnerships or innovations that can make truck parks safer in your mind?
Like I've just said, partnerships with you guys. What you're doing is great work. I think it'd be great to see more parking place operators, maybe some of the smaller ones, not just the motorway service areas, taking up the standards. Anyone implementing TAPA standards into their parking, even as a PPO, it could benefit all of the operators across the whole of the EU.
And what about partnerships with people like Europol, for example, with TAPA? So what sort of other outreaches does TAPA have connections-wise for the future, if it's Europol or others as well? What reach do you have?
So yeah, TAPA work closely with Europol. There's a conference with Europol next month, October 16th, in Barcelona. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes between Europol and the UK law enforcement agencies. That's all fed back on crime and parking locations. So the BPA's brought out, British Parking Association's brought out a list of certified parking spots, but they're not quite in the TAPA standards. So there is work going on behind the scenes with parking in the UK as well.
Great, yeah. So obviously, yeah, partnerships definitely are key for scaling any business or non-profit organisation as well. So yeah, look forward to seeing the work that goes on with Europol with that, and I know some of our team will be at that same conference as well. So look forward to Barcelona. Where do you see the industry in the next 5 years in terms of safety and security? Broad question.
Yeah, I'd like to see a whole load more of certified sites across the whole of the EU and the UK, so that trucks can do their drive time. That they get a 9-hour driving period, say, on a typical day across a 15-hour spread. It'd be great to be able to see trucks go from Eastern Europe all the way across to the UK and have a secure parking spot across that whole journey. That would be the ideal scenario.
No, I absolutely agree. Do you think there's any links there in terms of any fleets where maybe there's cost pressures so they can't maybe afford always to have secure parking areas? Do you think there's enough there in the market that people are actually bidding for contracts in logistics, or do you think that's sometimes something that creates those pressures of where people choose to park?
I think if it's specified by the company that you must be parking in a secure location and it's being monitored as well, there's certainly drivers who probably running out of hours and haven't got the time to make it to a secure location, and that's where we see lay-by parking, insecure parking across the EU, and that's inevitably where the crime's going to happen most. Curtains slashed, doors broken open. We see reports sort of every fortnight coming in with images of curtains being slashed and doors being broken just from the insecure parking alone.
Yeah. No, I think there's a lot can be done there, and I think having the standards, technology, innovation, and processes that I really am looking forward to seeing the next development of 5 years. I look forward to doing much more work with yourselves at TAPA as well. So yeah, just say massive thank you for coming up to our HQ today in I'd say sunny Norwich, but it's not been so sunny today. But yeah, thank you very much, Harry, for coming. It's been a pleasure to have you in terms of driving conversations, and look forward to seeing you and at the next TAPA conference and doing more work with you for PSR in the UK.
Thank you.